We got out when we ran out of water, and the fire just took over.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, more than 100 lives claimed by deadly fires on Maui. The latest as people are demanding answers about what caused the fires and why they had no warning.
No one is above the law. And the president and all those implicated are entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American enjoys.
Former Vice President Mike Pence reacting to the latest indictment of his one-time running mate, Donald Trump. What we've now learned about the case in Georgia and the other investigations still underway in other states. And a heartwarming Hollywood story now turning into a complete nightmare. Why the couple featured in The Blind Side is facing accusations of exploiting the football star they took into their home. Plus, President Biden marking 1 year since signing the Inflation Reduction Act into law, the impact it's having across the nation, and the administration's message to voters about its benefits. Scripps News Live begins right now. Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Wednesday. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Some schools in Maui are reopening this week as crews clean debris and test air and water quality after those devastating fires. So far, more than 100 people have died as crews continue to search the island. Thousands of people remain in shelters and rentals with unreliable internet and cell service. President Biden and the First Lady will be traveling to Hawaii on Monday, where they will be meeting with survivors and first responders and will be touring the disaster zone. The FEMA administrator says the government will support the people of Hawaii, the agency already approving more resources for the ongoing search efforts there.
Given the conditions and the need for additional resources, we will have at least 40 canine search teams on the island, in addition to hundreds of search and rescue personnel, with more on the way. We're working carefully to search the affected areas thoroughly and compassionately while respecting all of the cultural sensitivities.
Only one of the 3 wildfires in Maui is 100% contained. While the other 2 fires are close to being completely put out, people are worrying about fires reigniting. National correspondent Dan Grossman shows us how one community is coming together to support each other to prevent any more damage.
It's now been more than a week since these fires have destroyed parts of Maui, and while much of the attention has been on Lahaina, there are smaller communities that have also experienced immense loss. We traveled to one of them where it turns out residents aren't just trying to figure out how they're going to move forward, they're trying to figure out how to stop this ongoing fire risk. From above, there is serenity, a beauty that envelops. And on the ground,
I have one.
You have one in there? Yeah. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
there is a massive effort led by the community to save what's left of it. Right now, we are on our way to Kula. It is a town in what is known as Maui's upcountry, far more rural and inland, about an hour-and-a-half drive from Lahaina. Officials say 16 structures burned here when the fires came through last week. Now, Kula has gotten a lot less attention than Lahaina, but they are still in desperate need of supplies and help. So we're gonna head up there. They're gonna put us to work, and we're gonna see how things are going for them and what they need right now. This story was supposed to be about the supply efforts to keep families in the area safe and healthy.
Yeah, I mean, my driveway's still cooking.
But after getting here,
what are you driving?
We have like a F350 with a 400-gallon tank.
If you guys want to segment off into like hotspot mop-up,
yeah,
I'll focus on like green waste and dump runs.
Okay.
It was clear the need was far greater and more precarious.
We're trying to remove vegetation and clear fuels that might move from burning areas and into where houses are still standing.
So even a week after the main fires broke out, there's still a concern that more could spread because of these embers.
It's smoking every day. The helicopter has been flying every day since it broke out, trying to put out flare-ups and things like that. So it's hot and dry up here, and it'll probably continue to burn like this for quite a while, many days.
Kula is at an elevation of 3,000 feet. It also only has 6,500 residents. It means its fire department is smaller, especially with so many resources going to Lahaina. It's why these volunteers weren't spending their time shuttling water and supplies to those in need.
Digging in and kind of pushing back into it, digging, pulling. Pickaxes are really good.
Instead, they were throwing it on the smoldering remains that could flare up again, given the right wind.
You come out here and you just look at these little pieces of dirt and stuff, and then it just goes boom. And it's just crazy. There's a house right here.
Sydney Van Gruenwoud grew up in Kula. Her family was spared by the initial fire. But she knew it was up to people like her to make sure that remained the case for her neighbors.
Here, Sydney, we gotta pull this one into this way. I'll go shut you down so you can connect.
Margaret Angel only moved here a year and a half ago, but it's because of the family she's built that she's out here herself.
You really make your own family out here, and that's why we're trying to give back in any way we can, because I know for me, one of my coworkers gave me the bed I sleep on every single night because I came here with nothing. And so we just want to help and make sure that everybody has something at least, and coming together is really all we have, being so far from the mainland.
This is a volunteer effort that will go on for quite some time as the risk for more fires persists. But it's clear this is what Maui does, willfully, to keep its collective families safe.
It brings me to tears, for sure. We have such a tight community that nowhere else I feel like has.
Dan Grossman, Scripps News, Maui.
Hawaii's governor says the death toll will likely increase significantly. With authorities now starting to release the names of the dead, people have been demanding answers about what caused the fire and why they weren't warned. National correspondent Maritza Giorgio is in Missoula, Montana. She's going to bring us an update. But in the meantime, all of this has been putting an incredible strain on the people whose lives were upside down. Counselors have been gathering to help survivors cope with the emotional distress.
We're still experiencing some stress and some shock factor. I spoke to one gentleman who lost his home, his wife and kids, and his vehicle. And I think he said his job also burned down. So he's literally lost everything.
In the meantime, wildfire victims receiving the first round of donations this week. Relief efforts are expected to pick up after the Hawaiian governor reopened a main road to Lahaina. Donation efforts across the U.S. are also picking up to help animals affected by this fire. The Maui Humane Society is saying around 3,000 animals have been displaced. The nonprofit has been working to treat animals that come in, as well as reunite lost pets with their owners. And now an Arizona business owner with a passion for animals and a love for Hawaii has been stepping up to help by donating proceeds from her business to the Humane Society in Maui.
Easy to overshadow the little things. So me coming from the heart, I've grown up with pets all of my life, so I just wanted to contribute to that.
Lauren's family is also pitching in, promising to match the money she is raising from her business to donate. So people in Maui desperately need lots of help to piece their lives back together. Scripps News is supporting relief efforts through the Scripps Maui Wildfire Relief Campaign. You can scan that QR code that you see on your screen to donate to relief efforts. Any amount will make a difference. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, tourists behaving badly. The incidents from Paris to Rome under investigation, but we know about who was involved. And the family feud continues between former NFL player Michael Oher and the Tuohys, who are the focus of the movie The Blind Side. We'll have the latest on the fallout next.
Behind the nightmares of war hide simple motivations.
An immediate concern is theft of grain.
Scripps News and our partners at Bellingcat follow the costs and profits of the war in Ukraine, tracking the hidden network of Russian cargo ships, smuggling precious resources from occupied lands. Scripps News and Bellingcat present Russia's Ghost Fleet, Sunday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945. Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call. Just call 800-981-2945 now. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review. Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
The Athletic. Subscribe today.
Selena, are you sure?
We got this. Grab the Always pan.
But you look like
Cookware for beginners, experts, really anyone who eats. The Selena Gomez collection, only at our place.
How can a photo become a vibrant part of your home? When you go to tryfracture.com and print your images directly on glass. Get beautiful depth and clarity on a sleek frameless print that's easy to hang and looks incredible in any space. Go to tryfracture.com now to save 20% on glass prints.
Back to our coverage now. Those devastating wildfires on Maui. Hawaii's governor says the death toll will likely increase significantly. Right now, people are demanding answers about what caused the fire and why they weren't warned. National correspondent Maritza Giorgio is in Missoula, Montana for us. Maritza, there are still so many unanswered questions. What are the biggest concerns right now?
Hey there, Veronica. You know, we live in Montana. We're no strangers to wildfires here, and I've certainly reported on many fires over the years where we end up on a scene and people are, of course, frustrated and they are upset, and that's what we are hearing from my sources on the ground on the island of Maui. So many unanswered questions still. A lot of questions about the water. Why did firefighters report low water pressure when they arrived on scene? Why didn't any of the emergency sirens go off? And what role did the power company play? An early morning video from a Lahaina resident.
Freaking power line just went down.
May have captured the start of what would become the deadliest wildfire the U.S. has seen in a century. While officials haven't yet declared what started the fires on Maui that killed more than 100 people and counting, a pair of class action lawsuits against Hawaiian Electric, the state's primary electric provider, claim high winds blew down power lines, igniting the fire.
See them right there, that's the power line that started.
Lahaina resident Shane True may have captured key evidence with a cell phone camera the morning of the fire, saying he saw howling winds snap a wooden pole and spark the dry grass below.
The wind was so crazy. If it was blowing the roof off my house, honestly, it was like, I wouldn't blame them.
The class action suit blames Hawaiian Electric for keeping the power on amid high wind warnings, as dozens of people reported downed power lines. While high winds and dry conditions have been blamed for the fire, there's mounting evidence that Hawaii's utility equipment holds at least some responsibility not only for the Lahaina fire, but others that sparked elsewhere on Maui around the same time. Like this video from the Maui Bird Conservation Center, captured the night of August 7th, hours before the Lahaina fire broke out.
And I think that's when a tree's falling on a power line. The power goes out, our generator kicks in, the camera comes back online, and then the forest is on fire.
Citing the Washington Post, the lawsuit says documents from Hawaiian Electric show the company did not adopt a power shutoff plan, such as those used in California during wildfire season. California's main utility, PG&E, has increasingly used emergency power shutoffs since 2018, after investigators found the company's transmission lines sparked the biggest and deadliest fire in California history. While Hawaiian Electric has not commented on the lawsuit, its CEO said Monday the company needed to factor in the ability to keep emergency or healthcare services running. Hawaiian Electric is now investigating the locations where people reported fires starting. The company says it restored power to about 80% of residents who've been without electricity since last Tuesday. Maritza Giorgio, Scripps News. Now, experts say that it's clear evidence shows many fires started on the island of Maui on that day, on August 8th, but no reported lightning strikes in the area. So really no apparent natural causes for that fire. While it's still under investigation, it really looks like some kind of human role in this, Veronica.
All right, Maritza Giorgio reporting in Missoula, Montana for us. Maritza, thank you so much. In other news at this hour, a lawyer for the family of former NFL player Michael Oher blasting claims that he's made against them. Yesterday, Sean and Leanne Tuohy's attorney called these claims offensive and a shakedown. Oher is alleging that he was never adopted and the Tuohys misled him and placed him in a conservatorship. And now he wants to end it. Scripps News correspondent Stephanie Sandoval joining us now live from Nashville. Stephanie, what are both sides saying and how have they been responding?
Yeah, Veronica, there's been a lot of back and forth between the family. Former NFL star Michael Oher is petitioning to end a conservatorship on his estate after he claimed he was never actually adopted by the Tuohy family. Oher says he was actually tricked into signing a conservatorship when he was 18, which he says he just found out about earlier this year, and that the family kept millions of dollars from him, much of which came from that movie, The Blind Side, based on his life, which of course made more than $300 million. Oher says he never saw a dime of that money and now wants to be compensated what he's owed, plus interest and damages. But there are two sides to this story, of course. The Tuohys are pushing back, saying that the allegations aren't true. In a statement, Sean Tuohy said the only way Oher could go to Ole Miss was if he was actually, quote, part of the family, and that lawyers told them they couldn't adopt over the age of 18, so then they had to go with a conservatorship instead. Tuohy also told the Daily Memphian newspaper in Memphis, Tennessee, that they didn't make any money off the movie. However, later the family came out saying that they did make some money, but that they shared that money with Oher. We spoke to Michael Fletcher, the ESPN reporter who first broke the story about what this could mean in court.
I think that question is going to have to be resolved in court. But the petition certainly says that Oher's lawyer uncovered a document that showed kind of the contract terms, and that the film company paid the Tuohys $225,000 plus 2.5% of essentially profits from the movie. And as we know, the movie grossed over $300 million, cost roughly $30 million to make. Obviously, there are other expenses, but it'll be interesting to see kind of what the accounting shows. And that's one of the things the legal petition asks for, kind of an accounting of the money made from the film and showing where the money went.
Now, as far as the conservatorship goes, Sean Tuohy did reportedly say that he and his wife would end the conservatorship. Veronica.
All right, Stephanie Sandoval in Nashville. Stephanie, thank you so much. So Illinois is now requiring safeguards for earnings by child social media stars. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is signing that bill into law on Friday, and it takes effect July 1st of next year. The bill amends the state's child labor law, establishing safeguards for minors featured in online videos. Teenagers over the age of 18 can take legal action against their parents if they were featured in a monetized social media video and not properly compensated. Parents will now be required to set aside half of all earnings for a piece of content that will be placed in a block trust fund for the child. YouTube making changes to prevent medical misinformation sharing on its platform. The company will remove false claims about cancer treatment. One common misconception is that patients should take vitamin C instead of undergoing radiation therapy. Enforcement will be ramped up in the coming weeks. YouTube already bans misinformation about vaccines, abortions, and the promotion of eating disorders. Still ahead on Scripps News Live, a fake elector scheme under investigation in Arizona right now. What we know about that case and the 2020 election. Also, more companies jumping in on the trend of 4-day work weeks. The benefit one Colorado nonprofit is saying that it is seeing already. We'll be right back.
If you, like many people, are covered by both Medicare and your state's Medicaid, here's something important to know. Now you could get even more health benefits than you already have. It's the UnitedHealthcare Dual Complete Plan. To find out if you or someone you care about is eligible, it's easy. Call now to talk with us. We can explain it all and answer your questions. Medicaid gives you benefits, and Medicare gives you some too. But a Dual Complete Plan can add even more benefits and features compared to original Medicare. You'll have lots of doctors and hospitals to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, including brand names. And depending on where you live, you could enjoy other benefits too, like more dental care and rides to and from your doctor or pharmacy. Most plans even give you up to $300 a month to help pay for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and new this year, utility bills. And best of all, with this plan, there's no extra cost to you. Remember, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, chances are you could get a Dual Complete Plan. So call now to talk with us. Our agents are available to help. We know healthcare can be confusing. UnitedHealthcare can straighten things out. And with over 40 years of experience, you can count on us to be there for you. With a Dual Complete Plan, you could have a wide choice of doctors to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, help paying for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and utility bills. More dental coverage too, all at no extra cost. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for Dual Complete. So call the number on your screen now to see if you're eligible or to enroll. There's more for you with the UnitedHealthcare Dual Complete Plan.
Window Warrior Project helped me find the strength to go further than I ever thought possible.
I was able to come out of my shell and really connect with others.
So I can feel like part of a team, part of the community again.
It's possible to live better.
It's possible to have a voice and to be heard.
To feel understood.
To find peace.
Because I've experienced firsthand that anything is possible.
Behind the nightmares of war, hide simple motivations.
An immediate concern is theft of grain.
Scripps News and our partners at Bellingcat follow the costs and profits of the war in Ukraine, tracking the hidden network of Russian cargo ships, smuggling precious resources from occupied lands. Scripps News and Bellingcat present Russia's Ghost Fleet, Sunday night at 8/7 Central, only on Scripps News.
Well, home construction ramped up last month across the United States, beating expectations by economists. Builds for single-family homes jumped nearly 7% from June, but building permits remained stagnant in July. They're also down 13% from a year ago. All of this comes as low inventory remains an issue in the existing home market. The Mortgage Bankers Association is saying a growing number of Americans have tapped into their home equity to pay for debt and renovations. Many times lenders offer better rates for home equity loans and other kinds of personal loans. They're based on the difference between how much your home is worth and how much you owe on your mortgage. Well, the 4-day work week is becoming a trend for some industries in the United States. In Colorado, some counties, companies, and even a police department have all made the switch. And studies show that it can increase productivity and it makes workers happier. Rob Harris from Scripps News Denver explains how a nonprofit is also moving to a 4-day work week.
Anytime the doors are open at the Metro Caring Food Pantry, it's bustling.
We're a choice model, so that means folks can choose whatever they want in whatever quantities they want.
That's Corey Scrivener. She's the food access manager here, leading the team to get food into the market and then out to people who need it.
It's a lot of work. It's 12,000 pounds of food coming in and out of our doors every day.
The team at Metro Caring has had a front row seat to the growing need in our community. They say they've seen the number of people coming in for help triple since the pandemic, and that takes a toll on them, too.
We don't get to go home and like people aren't hungry because we did a good job, you know what I mean? So that amount of emotional labor that we're putting into procuring and distributing food is huge. I think not only in this organization, but in the nonprofit sector in general, unfortunately, folks are so passionate that they burn out.
Therein lies the paradox at the heart of the experiment Metro Caring has just started. At a time when nonprofits are busier than ever, they've decided to scale back their hours. Every employee now has Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off.
We wanted to look at this from a holistic state of mind.
Eric Hicks is the co-CEO of Metro Caring. He watched as the stress on his team led to more people calling it quits.
What came out of that was, how do we implement thinking about how we can provide a healthy balance for our staff, that they can balance their professional and personal lives a little better.
This is the beginning of a 6-month pilot program. Hicks says they'll be watching to see the impacts this has on employees, volunteers, and the people who come to Metro Caring for services. Then they'll make a decision on whether or not to make this switch permanent.
We've had one 4-day work week and my life has changed. Like, I'm not kidding. It was like one Friday off and I was like, I'm a new person.
Scrivener says she and her teammates have had much better work days with the extra day off.
Everyone was like, I feel like my best self today. And that's the words that I kept using to describe how I was feeling. Like, I actually feel rested.
For Denver 7.
So everyone's feeling like pretty good about it.
I'm Rob Harris.
4-day work week. Where do I sign up? All right, so Barbie is continuing to dominate at the movie theater, earning nearly $540 million at the domestic box office since its debut almost a month ago now. And that makes it Warner Brothers' highest grossing domestic release ever, surpassing 2008's superhero sequel, The Dark Knight. Barbie is also making its way into the workplace. A new survey from ResumeBuilder.com shows that nearly 2/3 of Americans who saw the film say that they are more aware of the effects of patriarchy in the labor market. The survey shows the impact was felt most among women. The movie follows Barbie and Ken as they travel into the real world and encounter patriarchy for the very first time. I'm Veronica De La Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget to check us out online as well, scripsnews.com. And if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live. Coming up, what should you do if you have plans to travel to Hawaii soon? What travel experts are suggesting if your destination is Maui? And at least one person facing charges related to an alleged plan to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia, hoping to see his case moved out of state court. That request from Mark Meadows. We'll talk about it more next.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-719-8907.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-719-8907. That's 800-719-8907.
If you're one of the many people struggling financially right now, Bridget's got your back. They'll send you $50 to $250 instantly with no credit check or interest.
Download the Bridget app today and get $50 to $250 instantly.
This is Sydney.
Hello.
Look
Look at the space between her head and her shoulder. It's a square. The ancient Egyptians knew this. Pharaohs used this headrest. They offered great support, but were they comfortable? The PillowCube was made to fill that shoulder gap, optimized for support, comfort, and cooling. Buy the PillowCube today.
This stuff is a miracle. It took us 60 prototypes. Wow. When we made this stuff, it grew into the #1 dermatologist recommended sweat brand for all over the body. When people say this is the first thing I've tried that stopped my sweat, that makes my day. We have a sweat quiz that'll customize the products for you based on where you sweat, based on how much you sweat. Free shipping, money back guarantee. There's really no risk to giving it a try. If you had a sweaty face or sweaty underarms or sweaty hands, that's really why we made Carpe.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com.
Let's get you up to date on some of our top stories right now. A week after the deadly wildfires in Hawaii, the death toll has climbed to more than 100 people. The historic town of Lahaina in Maui all but destroyed. Communication remains difficult. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will be visiting the devastated areas on Monday. Biden has vowed to supply more federal resources to help victims rebuild. A prosecutor in Kansas says police should return seized material to a weekly newspaper in Marion County. The items were seized during a raid, quickly drawing national attention. Marion County Attorney Joel Enzi says that his office found insufficient evidence that would have supported a search. The paper's publisher says he believes the search happened after reporters started investigating the police chief's background. And North Korea's state-controlled media is saying a U.S. soldier ran from South Korea into the north because he was, quote, disillusioned at the inequality in American society. Travis King was deployed to South Korea and expected to be sent back to the U.S. after serving prison time when he ran across the border during a tour at the DMC. U.S. officials have not been able to verify the North's comments. Got some breaking news to report right now. I'm Veronica De La Cruz here in Atlanta. Right now, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis is requesting a trial date for former President Trump to be March 4th, 2024. Now, that is the day before Super Tuesday. The former president and 18 others facing 41 felonies in Georgia right now. Now, one-time Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows is hoping to move his Fulton County case from a state court to federal court. A change of venue wouldn't change the charges. Meadows, Trump, and others are charged with violating the state's racketeering laws in an effort to overturn the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. Former Vice President and 2024 presidential candidate Mike Pence spent part of the morning in his home state of Indiana speaking to Republicans during a breakfast event. And he repeated earlier statements that he had no right to overturn the 2020 election.
No one is above the law. And the president and all those implicated are entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American enjoys. But secondly, despite what the former president and his allies have said for now more than 2.5 years, and continue to insist to this very hour, the Georgia election was not stolen, and I had no right to overturn the election on January 6th.
Donald Trump and the other 18 defendants have until next Friday to appear in Atlanta and face charges. Each one is expected to be booked at the Fulton County Jail before being arraigned at the courthouse. The sheriff, Pat Labatt, says normal practices will be followed with the former president. Scripps News national correspondent Alexa Liaco joins us now live from right outside of that courthouse. Alexa, what's happening there right now?
Veronica, things look a little different than they normally do. We've got sheriff's deputies blocking off the parking lot behind me. That parking lot is still open to visitors, family members, and lawyers of inmates who are currently in the Fulton County Jail. But all media and unnecessary personnel is being kept out of the jail for now. They said they're going to be here until next Friday. There are also deputies outside another intake gate around the corner from here, making sure there's no unnecessary traffic into the Fulton County Jail. We also had some people coming by, supporters of the former president, people who were just curious if anybody had showed up yet. One man drove up here from Florida saying he was here to support the former president in this process. But everyone, Trump and the 18 other co-defendants, will have to come here to the Fulton County Jail for processing. The sheriff has said he's prepared to take fingerprints in a mugshot. He says he has not been told that these people will be treated any differently than anyone else coming in for processing. But one of the defendants that is trying to change the way this is done, move his case to federal court, Mark Meadows, as you mentioned, is trying to get his case moved. That request has been assigned to U.S. District Judge Steve Jones, who was an appointee of former President Barack Obama. He's referencing a law known as a removal statute, which allows an officer of the United States facing charges in state court to transfer the proceedings to federal court if the alleged behavior falls under their governmental duties. And it is expected that Donald Trump and many of the other defendants in this racketeering case will also file motions similar to try and get their cases removed from state proceedings. And that could, of course, delay everything happening here at the Fulton County Jail if those do go through. But as of now, that motion, we have not heard any updates on that. But we did just hear moments ago, Fani Willis released that motion to give a date for the trial to start March 4th, 2024. That motion also included the next step in this process, a proposed arraignment date of September 5th of this year. Veronica?
All right, so we're already starting to see some action there. And you had mentioned, Alexa, there was a man there who wanted to show his support for the former president. Was he protesting or demonstrating? What was he doing?
He's brought signs. He's actually camped out sitting with all the media here, just waiting and watching, hoping to catch a glimpse. He said he drove up from Miami this morning, wanting to be here. He says what's happening to the president is not fair. Just hanging, waiting out, watching like the rest of us to see what unfolds next here at the jail.
All right, Alexa Liaco live in Atlanta. Alexa, we appreciate it. Thank you. So could former President Donald Trump face a 5th criminal indictment this year? An investigation into fake electors is also underway right now in Arizona. Trump and his allies are under scrutiny in the state for allegedly trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election there. The scheme, similar to one in Michigan and Georgia, involved a false slate of pro-Trump electors. Trump and his supporters reportedly contacted Arizona lawmakers in an effort to reverse President Joe Biden's narrow victory in the state. Scripps News national correspondent Addie Guajardo joining us now live from Phoenix with the details here. So, Addie, what more can you tell us about this investigation that's taking place now in Arizona?
Well, Veronica, we don't know a whole lot about this state investigation. Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays and her office have been extremely tight-lipped about this state investigation that was announced back in March. Now, this is what we do know. We do know that on December 14th, allegedly fake electors gathered together and they posted a video online claiming signing day. That's what it read on Twitter. They allegedly signed a fake document and submitted false votes, claiming that Donald Trump had won the 2020 election. Now, this election scheme was mentioned in both the federal indictment and the Georgia indictment into interference in the 2020 elections. Now, a reason all eyes are in Arizona is because all of those claims of voter fraud that allegedly happened here in Arizona because of the millions and millions of dollars that were spent on recounts, including a hand recount here in Arizona, and also because of President Joe Biden's very narrow win in Arizona, even more narrow than what he won by in Georgia, winning by less than 11,000 votes. Now, as I said, back in March, Attorney General Chris Mays launched an investigation into these fake electors. She released a statement back then, reading in part, "My office will investigate the fake electors situation, and I will take very seriously any effort to undermine our democracy." Now, I did reach out to the Attorney General's office to ask for an update on this investigation. I also asked if they had worked with the federal investigation on that indictment or if they had worked with the Fulton County, Georgia investigation. A spokesperson with the office says they cannot comment on ongoing investigation. Now, Arizona is one of 7 states where fake electors allegedly gathered and submitted false votes, claiming that President Trump won the election, Veronica. But the reason, again, why Arizona is so important is because Biden won by such a narrow margin and because of all those claims of election fraud. Veronica?
Yeah, we were just speaking with Alexa Liaco, Addie, who was saying that the DA in Georgia, Fani Willis, has requested a trial date of March 4th, 2024. Now, that is the 4th indictment for the former president. How likely is an indictment in Arizona now?
Well, look, it's really going to be up to the state attorney general's office to decide if they want to indict any of these allegedly fake electors. We know in Georgia, out of the 16 fake electors, more than a handful have reportedly received immunity. Others could face criminal charges. Out in Michigan, one of those 7 states, also this July, the attorney general filed felony charges against 16 Republicans who acted as fake electors. Now, it's unclear what kind of charges the fake electors, the allegedly fake electors here in Arizona, could face. But I did speak with an attorney who told me Michigan may be providing a roadmap to those states, including Arizona, that are looking or even considering charges against these allegedly fake electors.
And in those cases, right in Michigan, some of those fake electors are facing up to 14-year sentences for some of the most serious offenses. So we could absolutely expect other states to jump on this bandwagon, especially given sort of the additional facts laid out in that indictment.
Now, he says these indictments that were recently announced, both by special counsel Jack Smith, the federal one, and the Georgia case out in Fulton County, he says these could potentially speed up the investigation here in Arizona, but we're just going to have to wait and see. Veronica?
It's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. Addie Guajardo reporting live for us from Phoenix, Arizona. Addie, thank you so much. So President Biden once again touting the impact of his Inflation Reduction Act, this time in Washington. He signed a law exactly a year ago today, and the IRA has been a key piece of the president's economic agenda. Earlier, I spoke with Michael Reagan, the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, about how the Inflation Reduction Act has been impacting the agency. We've also talked about its mission. Take a listen to this. So, Michael, it's been 1 year now since the Inflation Reduction Act was signed into law, and the EPA released this statement saying that tremendous progress has been made. And it's been made in designing and implementing new programs. Give us a sense of what these programs are and what Americans should be expecting.
Well, listen, we're really excited. 1 year in, and we're off to the races. We have designed and put out for competition a $27 billion greenhouse gas reduction fund designed to leverage hundreds of billions of dollars in clean energy investments. We're excited because that's private capital that we're bringing off the sidelines. We have billions of dollars for community grants where our states and our tribes and our cities can begin to act on those solutions that they've had for a long period of time to invest in a more climate-friendly infrastructure, but also begin to invest in clean technologies. And then we have $2 billion that will focus on our environmental justice communities that are on the front lines that have been combating the climate crisis. We're excited about the progress that we've made, and we're excited about the reaction that we're getting as I travel the country.
So we're talking about progress, but we want to know where things stand right now. Where does the United States stand right now in terms of meeting these climate goals and reducing these emissions by 50% by what? The year 2030, which is right around the corner.
Well, listen, I've said from day one that EPA has a role to play in that through our technology standards. And so what you're seeing is the agency move forward on technology standards focused on cars and trucks with electric vehicles and low carbon fuel vehicles. We have a power plant rule that we've proposed that we're taking comments on to lower emissions from natural gas and coal. And then we have the Inflation Reduction Act, right? This infusion of billions of dollars of resources that pays complement to those regulatory actions. The United States is well on its way to meeting those targets, the targets of protecting people and the planet, lowering emissions, but also creating millions of jobs.
But is the infrastructure there? I mean, does it exist? I have an EV. I'm excited to have an EV, but I've noticed that the infrastructure doesn't really exist in terms of charging an electric vehicle. How quickly do you think the U.S. will be able to put all of this in place?
Very quickly. We're seeing the resources from the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law really focused on that necessary infrastructure for charging all across the country. But we're also seeing these billions of dollars of grants that we're proposing being utilized by local communities to invest in local charging stations that would not exist but for the Inflation Reduction Act's focus on frontline communities and communities that have not had a seat at the table for these kinds of investments. Listen, we know that we lost some time during the previous administration, and we're making up for lost time, and that's exactly what we're doing. The infrastructure is coming, and it's going to be more resilient and more technologically savvy than we've ever seen in this country.
But Americans seem really confused about the IRA. They seem really confused about the Inflation Reduction Act, because we're talking about climate change. We're talking about greenhouse gas emissions. How do the two square?
Well, you know, as we look at tackling this climate crisis, the president has said from day one, this is also an opportunity to deploy advanced technologies and rebuild our infrastructure. And so with that, we have a more technologically savvy and efficient infrastructure, which is keeping money in families' pockets. Their energy prices are lower. We're seeing more efficient utilization of our water infrastructure as well. These technology enhancements will reduce waste, but also keep costs lower, which keeps money in every family's pockets.
Now, I also asked about the IRA's impact on climate disasters like the wildfires in Maui. And Michael said the bill supports infrastructure needed for quicker responses and puts the country on the offense against climate crises. Still to come on Scripps News Live, American tourists now apologizing after two separate incidents. We'll have those details for you after the break. And we would like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number's on your screen right there. It's 1-833-4SCRIPPS. Again, it's 1-833-472-7477. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
I was having problems with my legs and my feet.
I suffered a lot of cramps, swelling.
I would dread going up and down steps.
Tingling in my legs due to circulation issues.
The aches and pains have just continued to increase.
Did you know if you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, or are over 40, your leg aches and pains could be from poor circulation? Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps. Revitive uses breakthrough technology to get your calf muscles pumping like a second heart to increase blood flow, reducing leg aches and pains, cramps, or swollen feet and ankles.
Plus, it's drug-free.
The cramping was terrible, and I don't get that anymore. Thank you, Revitive.
Revitive is FDA cleared and clinically proven to increase oxygen-rich blood flow during use. The smart stimulation works so well, over 3 million people use Revitive.
As a firefighter, I'm constantly on my feet. I wish I had known about Revitive a lot earlier. It would have made a huge difference in really who I am today.
Revitive has given me a better quality of life because I am living without pain.
Revitive reduces leg pains 2 times more than exercise alone in just 6 weeks.
We want to take walks. We want to do more social activities, just the typical things in life that I did not feel well enough before Revitive that I was able to do.
Now, Revitive is regenerizing my legs and making me feel like, let's do more.
Go to Revitive.com now to learn how Revitive can help reduce leg aches and pains, swelling, and cramps.
The doctor said go for it, and I'm in the best shape in terms of my legs and my ankles and my feet than I've ever been.
Try Revitive. You will see the difference. It works. It worked for me.
Get the most out of life with Revitive. Visit Revitive.com. That's REVITIVE.com. Or call
1-800-317-6641. That's 1-800-317-6641 today. Or visit Revitive.com. Order now.
Law enforcement calls it house stealing, when cyber thieves transfer the title to your home out of your name to take out fraudulent loans or even sell it. How do you protect yourself? Get Triple Lock Protection from Home Title Lock. Our Triple Lock Protection gives you 1, 24/7 monitoring, 2, urgent alerts of any title changes, and 3, title restoration help from our team of experts. Do you know if your title is safe? Check your title status now at HometitleLock.com.
Hey,
I'm inside the bank.
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank and get Dave, the banking app.
What?
There's an easier way.
Oh, she going to jail.
You can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
During my time reporting from the front lines in Ukraine, I witnessed the extraordinary spirit of everyday people. No surrender. Tonight at 10, 9 Central, only on Scripps News.
Despite devastating wildfires in West Maui, officials say other parts of the island like South Maui, Wailea, and Kihei are open for business. But is now really a good time to visit? Maui's mayor said Monday that a complete stop on tourism would be devastating to the local economy. But some travel experts are saying it is best to avoid a trip there, at least for this month. They're flagging that most airlines and hotels are being flexible with refunds or rebooking requests and say, given the ongoing emergency, it is probably wiser to steer clear until things are more stable.
It's still an ongoing emergency situation. So I wouldn't say cancel a trip that you have booked in September right now, but I would say just keep a close eye on it. You want to respect the people of Maui. So you want to do what they need, but they also rely heavily on tourist dollars. So you don't want to cut them off either.
Residents of Maui are still coming to terms with the devastation that has left at least 106 people dead, with hundreds still missing. Search and recovery efforts are ongoing. 2 Americans are under arrest right now in Paris after they were busted for spending the night in the Eiffel Tower. The arrest followed an incident in Rome where a tourist was caught climbing on the historic Trevi fountain to fill her water bottle. International correspondent Giles Gibson explains how authorities are taking these cases very seriously.
The operator of the Eiffel Tower is saying that the 2 men bought legitimate tickets late on Sunday local time in Paris, and somehow on their way back to the grounds they found their way to an area between the 2nd and 3rd levels of the Eiffel Tower, and they were then discovered early on Monday local time in Paris by security guards who were doing their rounds before the iconic tower was opened up to the public. Now, prosecutors in Paris are saying that the 2 men appear to have got stuck because of how drunk they were, and the operator of the Eiffel Tower is saying that it's going to be moving forward with a criminal complaint against these 2 tourists. Meanwhile, here in Rome, we've had some footage that was actually shot last month, but it's going viral, showing a woman climbing over the rocks at the famous Trevi fountain right in the heart of the Italian capital, filling up her water bottle before you hear a police officer shouting and blowing their whistle. You then see the woman walking back to the side of the fountain, and there is a conversation that goes on between the woman and the police officer. We can't hear what's being said, but the woman doesn't appear to be apologizing profusely or showing much contrition. We then see the police officer and the woman walking away together, but what we don't know is anything about the identity or the nationality of this woman, or indeed if she faced any sort of a fine or any repercussions for her decision to walk across that iconic 18th century fountain. Now, Italian authorities certainly take this kind of thing very seriously indeed. We've seen a couple of incidents over the course of this summer with tourists deciding to scratch their names or initials into the iconic Colosseum in the heart of Rome. And if you're found guilty of, quote, damaging a cultural asset, you can face a fine of more than $15,000 or even a short prison sentence. Giles Gibson, Scripps News, Rome.
All right, Giles, thank you so much for that report. A conservative group is kicking off a $2 million advertising campaign this week, and it's to encourage Republican voters to maintain support for Ukraine in its war against Russia. The ad being released just as Congress gears up for what could be a bitter fight over U.S. funding to support Ukraine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken announcing a new $200 million assistance package, including air defense munitions, artillery rounds, anti-armor capabilities, and mine-clearing equipment. That announcement coming on the heels of President Biden's request for more than $20 billion in military and humanitarian aid for funding for Ukraine. Scripps News international correspondent Jason Bellini has seen what the U.S. allied support has meant firsthand, and he has been on the front lines of the war now for the past year. Jason has a new primetime special premiering tonight on Scripps News. It's called No Surrender, Ukraine's Unsung Heroes. And you can catch his full report tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern only on Scripps News. Still to come on Scripps News Live, a husband and wife duo serving up something special for tea lovers across the nation. We're going to share what makes their company so sweet. Also, we'd like to remind you right here to follow us online at Scripps News on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. We'll be right back.
This is an important message for the millions of Medicare recipients covered under your state's Medicaid. Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Call the number on your screen and get a free Medicare benefits review to see if you qualify. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Some Medicare Advantage plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. You don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
Plus, certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to enroll in their state-based Medicare savings program. That can add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Call the number on your screen to see if you qualify for this state-based program. A licensed insurance agent is standing by to take your call.
Just call 800-981-2945 now.
Medicare and Medicaid give you some benefits, but there are Medicare Advantage plans available with even more benefits and savings. Plus, some plans may include lots of doctors and hospitals, all in-network. Plans may include dental, vision, and hearing coverage, $0 copays for prescription drugs, and an annual allowance to spend on groceries, rent, and utilities for those who qualify. Plus, you may be eligible for a plan with free transportation. Remember, you don't get these benefits automatically. Call now and get a free, no-obligation benefits review.
Just call 800-981-2945 now. That's 800-981-2945.
How does Klein & Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein & Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein & Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein & Spector.
Breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive
with up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
All month long, we are celebrating National Black Business Month and highlighting how Black business owners are leaving their mark on the world. One couple in Atlanta brewing up something special for tea lovers. Whether you prefer to sip your tea hot or cold, sweet or unsweet, they offer a variety of flavors. Brandy and Jermail Shelton say that their motto is fancy without the fuss. Sip tea differently. And their growing business, Just Add Honey, sells their tea products to more than 100 stores across the nation. Okay, when you hear Eggo, you probably think of those waffles, right? But now those waffles could include some booze on the side. Kellogg's teaming up with Sugarlands Distilling Company to create this Eggo Brunch in a Jar sipping cream. The liqueur blends flavors like toasted Eggo waffles, maple syrup, butter, and get this, smoky bacon. Woo. The Brunch in a Jar is available at some beer and wine stores across the country or online in some states. You can check out the Sugarlands website to see where you can pick up your jar or just check out their recipes. I don't know about that. I don't know. But you know what? I think Del Walters will know. He'll know all about it. He probably will like it as well. He's up next, by the way. Have a great day.